It's all about life, love, and the pursuit of happiness and going inside EMS. I am your host, Chris Saballero, and with me always is the man of the hour, too sweet to be sour. The ladies know he's the man with the power, Kelly Grayson, KG, coming to us from the Empire State. Really, we almost need to call that Canada because you're so close.
Yeah.
You can smell the French talk that's going on up there. But what's going on out of New York
Oh man,
this week?
the summer has finally arrived. It's
Like 68 degrees here.
well, we're actually having sun. The nights still get chilly. It's nice to live in a place where you don't absolutely have to have central heat and air. I don't
Yeah.
have to have central air conditioning. I just open a window and it's fine. But it's gotten that time of year where I'm going to have to start finding the local gun clubs and hitting the sporting clays tournaments on the weekend.
Yeah. I got to
Just
tell you, man, right
absolutely.
now, businesses like air conditioning, and actually, I was looking around in San Diego. It's getting a little hot in San Diego when I was there visiting a few months back, and nobody has air conditioning. So it may be time that we go into business and open up an air conditioner supply company in San Diego. But let's go ahead and move along. So you can see we have a guest that's joining us today, and guest is near and dear to my heart. You know, I've been working for Quick Medic for a year and some odd now. And Darin is one of our supervisors. He's an operations supervisor at Quick Medic, Darin Johnson. He's joining us. And he's got a great story that he's going to share with us about working in Utah, Salt Lake City. And we're going to talk about Utah House Bill 14 that Darin was instrumental in bringing to light with a few other
Awesome.
folks. But what's really interesting is the second part of the show. Darin is the owner operator of Mod Doc, which is primary care, urgent care center that he opened up there in Salt Lake City area. But Darin, welcome to the show. I mean, I'm here talking
Welcome.
about you like you don't exist, but welcome to Inside EMS.
Thank you very much for having me. My honor to be here.
You know, I got to tell you, you've done a lot of work. You've done a lot of work with us. Very impressed with your work ethic. Very impressed with how you're motivating and inspiring our employees. But you know, we started to talk earlier on when you first came on board about Utah House Bill 14, kind of shifting the scope of EMS, and maybe just a little bit for the audience about what is House Bill 14 and how did it come about?
House Bill 14 was born out of me basically getting in trouble with the state after I was working for a mobile IV infusion company. And I had a moment where I just stopped and went, wait, huh? You'll let me do all of these things if I'm working for an EMS agency, but if I have all the same things in place working private, that I can't do that. And it started this whole journey of wanting to understand why paramedics weren't recognized for their scope of practice in the private setting.
Yeah. So give us the synopsis. What does House Bill 14 allow you to do now?
So what House Bill 14 does is it really doesn't change the scope of practice in paramedics at all. It just allows us to operate in different settings. So previously we were only covered under the EMS Act, or what was covered when you're working for an ambulance service or another transport agency. Well, paramedics apply in all these other settings, which many of us are familiar with, but that just simply wasn't an option to exercise our scope of practice. So we implemented a regulatory mechanism by which we can do that. And through working with community partners and multiple legislators and even up to the governor's office, we were able to get House Bill 14 through this year.
Awesome. Awesome. And congratulations on being someone who doesn't take no for an answer. I think
Yeah,
that's what we need as far as advocacy, is just not taking no for an answer. It's interesting what you talk about HB 14 being passed right now. Texas is trying to do the exact opposite. They've got legislation that they're debating on trying to crack down on infusion services and that sort of thing, not allow paramedics to do that sort of thing. And I think the law of unintended consequences is going to bite them in the rear end on that. We need to expand our scope and expand our footprint, not take it away. So how did you get this done? The meeting with the legislators, what was the process? How'd you get the wheels turning?
I had a connection to the previous EMS director here in the state of Utah, Guy Danzy, wonderful guy. He's since retired, and I carried that conversation through with Darin Bushman, the current EMS director, and we were able to just point out that there was an obvious problem and continue. It took engaging. Initially it was with the EMS bureau, and then it took getting the ear of a legislator, and so I strategically looked up who was over the Division of Professional Licensing and sat on that board, and I contacted those legislators, and I finally caught the ear of somebody who was willing to take it on. And then from there, it took engaging rural EMS partners and other decision-making groups within the EMS community in the state of Utah, and making sure that we were clear on what our intentions were, that it wasn't to try and take anything from the fire agencies, but to supplement the resources that were available within the state. And I also saw just how badly in need resources are when I worked as a rural EMS director in a remote part of Utah. And like, paramedics should be expanding their scope of practice. We really should be fully utilizing our ability to operate in remote environments and in homes and everywhere else that we so can apply to so beneficially.
Awesome.
Yeah, interesting. And it's one of the things too now when we start to think about EMS becoming an essential service, I think my question to you is this was one person who really is, found a deficiency and did what he needed to do, found the resources he needed to have to make a change occur. But I guess my biggest question, we kind of asked you how it came about. We kind of asked you, what was your big aha moment, your big learning moment when it comes to getting legislation to pass, not only to get written, but to get passed? I mean, there are a lot of EMS providers out there who are now thinking about essential services, who are now thinking about changing scopes of practice for billing when it comes to community paramedics and so on. But what was the big learning moment for you in this process to say, oh my gosh, we're going to pass this bill?
When I saw it have a spot on the docket, I knew that there was momentum, but then when it got from the House back to the Senate was when I knew that it was getting really close, and back to the House after being voted on the Senate. And we kind of knew that unless something really erratic happened, that it looked like it was a sealed deal. It's still not done till the governor signs it and it goes into effect, but we definitely had all of the interested parties in agreement for the most part. There were some last minute negotiations, but once we got out of the Senate and back to the House, we were pretty sure that it was a done deal.
Was there ever a point of you quitting and saying, that's it, I can't do it anymore? Or was it, I mean, because this is more red tape than anything you could think about when you start to think about passing, legislation. I mean, I got to think there must have been a point where you were like, is this juice really worth the squeeze?
I sat it down and came back to it a couple times for sure. I would step away and my brain would come back around once I finished some short-term project, and I would continue on. And there was a lot of pauses in between there. That's one of the biggest things, is that as paramedics, we want to change things very, very quickly. And this is a slow game. It's not a rapid change at all.
Yeah.
And it takes, I don't think government was built that way either. It's supposed to be kind of a slow filtered process. And so anybody who wants to take that on in the future, just keep trying. And if one legislator doesn't work, don't stop. Find somebody else who agrees with you and has the access to get a bill passed through, and be realistic of whether or not what you're doing is worth your time.
Yeah. Darin, how long did the entire process take, start to finish?
I think it was right around 3 years or so.
Still.
Yeah. I think actually about 3 years and 1 month from when I started the investigation of how to change this to actually getting it signed by the governor.
Yeah, it's a long process, but a worthwhile one. I think it's a testament to rather than be like the typical paramedic, why can't we do this? Go, well, let's do something, make sure we can. Rather than bitch about it, you had a solution and a process. I think that's the biggest hurdle right there. Would you agree? Is just not the winding path you had to take to get there, but actually just to decide this is unacceptable. We need to change this.
Injustice is one of my strong suits. I can't stand it. And I got fixed. I definitely was like, this is an injustice to paramedics, and I wanted to change it.
I got you.
And when I see it that way, I can't disengage until I'm either shown that what I'm doing isn't useful or I'll succeed in the mission.
Was there any one particular stakeholder that really pushed back?
And don't give their name if there was, but maybe their argument against it, if there was one that would be good to know. Both
I think we
sides.
know the name, but give me the argument that they use that you shouldn't be doing.
Yeah, so you're going ahead and you're moving this forward to say, I want this. And then there had to have been a good argument on the other side that said, we don't really need this. So what was the opposing argument?
I think it still sits in the old hierarchical ways that certain people need to hold certain things within the tiers of medicine. And so it's that age-old power struggle. And it's not really just one organization. It's multiple organizations that have entrenched themselves into a certain way of thinking and a certain way that medicine should happen.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think
oddly enough, it always seems to be those very people are all for expanding their profession.
Yeah.
It's just when we try to expand ours, there's a problem.
You just need a hug, Kelly. That's all it is. You need a hug.
True.
And,
well,
I was very vocal with
podcast. So
sorry.
Go ahead, Darin.
Sorry.
I was very vocal with all the players throughout the state of Utah that this is just setting the foundation of bringing in advanced practice paramedics. That I understand that it will take several years to do that. But this is, kicking that can closer to us being NPI numbered billable providers within
that would be nice.
Within the EMS system. That's my end game of what I would like to see in the state of Utah.
Yeah, and I think that would be a great coup. And if you could get that going, that's something we do need to duplicate around the United States, because we know as it comes to billing, we can't work under a doctor's NPI number. That's their billing number, because we're not seen as
independent practitioners.
Right. So, and to get that change is going to be a long, long road. But Darin, let's switch gears a little bit. I brought you in as I said, certainly the owner operator of Mod Doc, and you and I have had discussions about this offline. First off, where the heck do you get the gumption to say, I'm going to open an urgent care, a primary care center, an urgent care center? Don't you have enough to do? Am I not keeping you busy at Quick Medic? I mean, where do you come up with deciding to open up your own urgent care center? And how the heck did you do it?
The foundation of this was just to be able to guide a vision of how to care for people within our communities and how to do it in a much better way than what we've seen with the big hospital systems and the disservice to patients. And so I guess I had wanted that for some time after, I've been involved in the natural healing world and a number of alternative modalities, and then my experience in Western medicine. I really badly wanted to combine and have a healing center of my own. And I love you, boss, but Quick Medic isn't my company and it's not my vision. And I just I wanted to be the captain of the ship and really guide the vision. And that was the driving factor of it. And then, I had some wonderful people come into my life that blessed that opportunity into reality through that process, through finding an old colleague that was offering up licensing to this new type of healthcare, and the investment partner that came along that now is an incredible partner for me. And then, just each step of the process of staying persistent through the contract negotiations, and the commercial leasing is a giant headache. and staying persistent through that. And then just really, it's just taking down the challenges one at a time when you're doing this, and a lot of chat GPT. Like, to learn, I mean, it's every day trying to learn as much as you can about each and every way that you can be a better provider and a better center for people of the community. And it's driven by a desire to provide tribal care. I believe healthcare should be localized and in communities and not run as some major giant entity, especially at the clinic level setting. And so we're just doing everything we can to grow a presence here in the community and be that.
Very cool.
I think it's awesome that you're also allowing paramedics and other non-traditional, I guess you'd say, personnel you would normally find in an urgent care. You're staffing it with paramedics, experienced paramedics and flight nurses.
And
What-
I do have a nurse practitioner
Yeah.
that I hired as well. So yeah, between us, we have a really great working team. It's just incredible. Yeah.
It's just, that'd be my dream job, you know, to be the boss of a physician. You know?
I'm nobody's boss. I don't know
Um,
if I'm really the boss.
Yeah. Do you find that my experience from the street working with urgent cares is they often are very limited in what they do, and they sometimes it seems they don't do a whole lot. They're very risk averse, and they would rather ship everything, no matter how trivial. To me, it seems like critical care interventionists like paramedics and flight nurses would be ideal for that, and not so apt to get scared and push the panic button.
I think you have to know where your line is of liability and all of those things. But
Yeah.
so much of medicine was done at home or in a local doctor's office for such a long time. And I personally think that we've gotten away from managing patients the way that we should, and to the level of ability of what should be expected of even just a non-specialist provider, that like they're meant to be a general practitioner in
Yeah.
all areas, and paramedics as well. Like, that's our job, to be educated in just about every sector of medicine, at
Yeah.
least to a certain degree. And if we want to change the system from that, everything is about litigation and risk, and I mean,
It's not.
it probably is a little bit, because of something bad happens somewhere. But if we have good, sound clinical staff and we are doing right by patients and best practice, we'll be just fine.
Yeah.
And we should take it as far as we can possibly take it to manage people in office.
Yeah. Well, the naysayers say stay in your lane, but I don't think there's anything wrong with widening your lane. And that's what you guys are doing.
So what goes into this, Darin? How do you open up your own urgent care center? Where does it start? What do you have to worry about? What's your days look like? I mean, how did you get to where you finally said, let's cut this ribbon and open the door?
Started in about October or so, with a lot of phone calls and conversations, and like really just legitimizing the opportunity at all. And then the development of the vision over probably another month, along with contract negotiations. So I was looking for investors, and there's a lot of educating yourself about how to make deals within that space, and finding a good investment partner if you don't have the money yourself, which I just did 20 years as, in EMS. It didn't come out with a lot, but I came out with a lot of grit. And so I was able to find some really good partners, and that was one of the biggest things. And then securing the funding, having a plan for how you're going to find a medical space. And I needed to find that medical space as turnkey so that we could get in business fast. And one of the benefits of our system is that we're able to get our providers up and billing within 60 to 90 days. So we have access to insurance billing fairly rapidly as well. But there's all of the credentialing that needs to go into that. There's all of the billing structure, your EHR that goes into that. There's a couple layers of medical malpractice. There's definitely lots of layers and lots of equipment. I fortunately came across a doctor's office that was going out of business, and I got a smoking deal on just buying the whole place. And so that was just another blessing in opening the clinic and making it financially affordable on a startup budget to do that. And I just have been able to find little pockets of grace through that process that have helped me just get closer and closer. And now on March, I think it was March 13th, we did our ribbon cutting ceremony with the South Valley Chamber of Commerce. And I mean, we watched the pallets come in before that, and we set up all the rooms and put all the stuff together. And then we're like, okay, it's time. And then you just got to start doing it and figuring it out.
How have your patients reacted? Do some of them are surprised to see a paramedic treating them in the urgent care?
No, not at all. I mean, the
That's
more and
heartening.
more,
That's
yeah,
encouraging.
more and more people are gaining a true appreciation for paramedics, at least in my communities. They see the value. You still get some dismissive people, but the people that really know understand that we're really skilled individuals, and we have, training in a million different areas, and we are a great asset in the healthcare scheme of things. The patients love it. They love the functional and integrative approach. I think we're seeing a whole new wave of optimism in health and different modalities.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
very
still
cool.
have to honor Western medicine in its place, but we also need to honor the thousands of years old practices that come from real traditional medicine as well. And I say it regularly, but I'm just trying to create fusion medicine, kind of like when you go to a restaurant and you get fusion food. I just want to bring all the best parts of all of medicine
Yeah.
together and provide the best care for people so they can have good quality of life.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think that that's the secret. I mean, knowing you over the past few months, I think you're going to be extremely successful. So what about paramedics now? Do you got a special, I mean, you shouldn't be, you got all these paramedics now who are coming to you for care, right? I mean, what, you got something special for them? You taking care of them?
Absolutely. We
Or,
always offer first responder specials, and that
really?
includes,
I was just joking.
yeah, always. Yeah. Near and dear to my heart, my business partner's retired military, came out of EMS, obviously, and we always offer first responder specials. Right now, we're running a $6.99 special for pellets, and that includes the
Wow.
labs and the follow-ups.
Very cool.
And so that's a really good deal, and we would love to have anybody come and see all the services that we have to offer. And I definitely will provide a nice warm welcome to any
nice.
first responder that comes by the clinic.
So Mod Doc,
Awesome.
then you're in the Salt Lake City area? Is that where you are?
Yeah, we're in Draper, Utah, which is in the south end of Salt Lake.
Very cool. Well, if you're in that area, go ahead and check it out. And if you're looking for a doc, there's a place for you to go now. So really cool. But Kelly, what a cool opportunity here now
It
for
is awesome.
paramedics, right? Not only are they writing bills, but they're opening up their own urgent care
That's
primary
right.
care center.
And this it seems like this would open up the door to so many other things. Now you got a paramedic who owns an urgent care, owns and operates an urgent care, staff with paramedics and nurses. This could allow concierge medicine. You could partner with the physician and do home visits on behalf of the physician and that sort of thing. And think of all the things that we could do as critical care providers in that regard. The sky's the limit. We could do a lot. All it takes is somebody like Darin who won't take no for an answer and is too stubborn to understand that it's impossible.
Yeah.
And set your mind to it, and you can do a lot of good.
Thanks for joining us, Aaron. That's really awesome. But I didn't want to cut you off. Go ahead. Finish your thought.
I just want to, to all the providers out there, I know we feel like we get trapped in a box, and I just want you to know that you are not trapped, and to continue following dreams and how you can be the best asset to the EMS and healthcare field. You're not trapped. There's options.
Very cool.
Bravo. Well, you've heard Darin's story. I think there are a lot of potential stories out there like that for EMS providers simply by not accepting the limits that they place on us and fight to expand those limits. And you've heard what we think. We'd like to hear what you think. What do you think we could do? What do you think needs to be added to our scope of practice and what's achievable? We'd like to hear those thoughts at the show at ems1.com. And for myself and co-host Chris Ceballero and Darin with my doc, we thanks for tuning in to Inside EMS, and we're going to catch you guys next week.